Yo, we're back with episode 8 of Somehow I Dad, the podcast about dad life. Coming to you from Alabama, the bishop in the bedroom, Tyler Giddens.
Beans, what's up, guys?
From Seattle, TJ Weaver.
What's going on, everybody?
And coming on as a first-time guest on the show, we've got a good friend of the show and brother-in-law to TJ, Sir Alex Minton.
What's happening?
All right, Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Yep. So my name's Alex Minton. I'm 31 years old. I live in the Seattle area up here in Washington. Goodness, how long have I been married? We're coming up on 10 years in August. I've got 2 beautiful children, 1 6 Lincoln and 1 3 Uriah. And what do I do for a living? Gosh, I have a lot of jobs, actually. I'm a young adults pastor, as well as, the best way to put it, a supply chain manager for a large distribution company. And what I love to do, I love to hunt. I love to get out in the woods. I love to spend time with my boys. Love to watch combat sports of all kinds, shapes, and sizes. Except for slap fighting, that's really not my gig. But
dude, I've been seeing that lately. That's been getting some traction.
The one that's got me is the jujitsu in a car. That one's the winner.
That was awesome.
I've never seen that.
It's amazing. Russians come up with everything. Okay, they just figure it out. But and obviously, I love to play video games. I love to spend time with the boys that way. So pleasure to be here with you guys tonight.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks for jumping in. Gordo and Abe were both busy tonight. Poor Abe has been having the whirlwind of his life. He hasn't been on this. This will be the 3rd episode. He has got a lot going on with his job. He just got a new promotion at work. And he has just been, given a lot to handle. So he will be back on the show. He is not gone. And Gordo's got some family stuff he's got to take care of. So, it's just the 4 of us rolling in tonight. We've got a great episode in store for you guys. Let's get into it. All right, guys, what's happened since our last Dadcast? Does anyone have any stories about your kids or family you want to share? Looks like Oakley's got some stories she wants to share.
Levi took a massive Chipotle-sized burrito up to his bed and poured it out on his bed. And my wife and I made a rookie mistake where we thought, it's after church on a Sunday, we can take a nap with 4 children.
It's a glorious thing.
It was a holy nap. It was lovely. And then we wake up to my oldest, Luke, standing next to the bed, like 3 feet away going, Levi's got a burrito on his bed. And me being immature, I was like, did he pull his poop out of his diaper? But no.
That's where I was expecting this story to go.
So I bought 2 burritos on my way home from church because we got this little local Mexican restaurant. They make really good tacos that M likes, and they make carne asada burritos that I like. But last time I got a burrito, it was kind of almost Taco Bell sized, which was disappointing. So I was like, I'm going to get 2 this time. Because normally they're like Chipotle sized. And so I got 2 Chipotle sized burritos. I'm like, well, now I can't eat this. So I put it in the fridge, but I'm an idiot. And I put it on a low shelf in the fridge, not a high shelf on the fridge. So yeah, Levi went up there, dumped the burrito on his bed and had a little kid fork, was eating carne asada off his mattress. And I don't know about you guys, but when you're like, because I'm up for church at 5. Because I wake up, pack everything up, shower, shave.
Yep.
And I'm the band director, so I try to always get there early. So call time 6:45. My goal is to be there 6:25, 6:30, get all my stuff set up. So any church gremlins that pop up, I can be available to help, whether it's broadcast side, front of house side.
Yeah.
But so I was tired and I was dead sleep. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I get sweaty when I like get into that deep sleep. Like,
I'm just sweaty all the time. So
that's fair. That's because you wear a sweater 24/7.
that's true.
Well insulated.
But yeah, so it was holy nap to straight adrenaline dump into the body. And wife, who's also dead tired, just got over a cold. And we're like steam cleaner getting meat juice off of his freaking bed, figuring out where the carne asada is, where's the tortilla. Like it was a hot mess. And I came downstairs and I come down, I sit in my office chair, Em sits in her chair, and we look at each other and we're like, that was dumb. Why did we even try to sleep? Like we can't. And my wife, being the sweet, loving woman she is just like, I'm so tired. I can't deal with this. I don't like it. Oh my God. All I want to do is sleep. And these kids. And I'm like, in that moment, I'm like, why do I have to be the mature one? It's only 3. It's okay. It's just a burrito. It's frustrating. I did want to continue napping, but that was the spicy Sunday afternoon. But service was fantastic. I wouldn't trade being a dad for anything else, but goodness, freaking kids, man.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so my oldest, Aspen, every night we put her down in her bed to go to sleep. And every morning we wake up with her between us. So that's fun. But for some reason, the last 3 days, every morning, we'll tell her to get up and go grab the baby a bottle because, like your child, she can reach the first shelf and grab a bottle off. Very responsible with that. But for the last 3 days, she has told us that she doesn't want to get out of the bed. And we're like, why? And she said, because of the tan dog that's running through the house. So I don't know if we have like a demon dog in our house, like a hellhound, or what's going on. But she is like in tears, will not get out of the bed because this tan dog is running through our house. I was like, there is no dog in this house except for our dog.
You know,
and she's solid black.
You know what this sounds a lot like?
A Gordo story?
It sounds like you got a goat man living in your house. And Aspen can see goat man.
No, that's dad life. When a kid has such a vivid dream that they're confident that it has happened in real life, that is you can't like convince
I don't
them
know,
that it didn't happen.
I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know how I'm going to convince Zeke when he starts having nightmares, like, and tells me there's like a monster. My kid, Zeke.
Oh, Ed. Okay.
Gosh. When Zeke has nightmares, I don't know how I'm going to convince him that like there's not like a monster in his closet. Because I'll go in there and just like very much prove to him there's no monster under his closet or in his closet or a monster under his bed. And like he keeps telling me there's one. Like, what do I do? Like, I was like, no, like I feel like I'm very much like evidence based now. Like I just showed you there's nothing in the closet. There's nothing under your bed. Like what? He's like, no, but it's in there. I'm like, but it's not. Like
That's the most frustrating part of parenting.
Sometimes you have to stoop to their level and just accept that they think it's real and then talk to them when they are not in sleep mode. Because I've done that with Luke because he watched some gamer playing Minecraft and he was afraid of whatever
he thought there was a creeper in his room.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, he heard it. He said he heard it outside. So it was one of those nights where I was like, I'm going to sit in your room until you fall asleep. Luckily, he falls asleep like me, where he's like full conversation, and it's beautiful. And then I walked out. I'm like, I just dadded the crap out of this moment. Got this.
See, I had a similar situation with Lincoln, and I played into it, but empowering him at the same time. So my son is super into Transformers, like knows more than most like Transformer manufacturers about Transformers.
He knows more than Hasbro.
Yeah, right. And so he's like freaking out about Decepticons under his bed or whatever. So I'm like, all right, dude, this is what we're going to do. So I went and he has these little Bumblebee arm rockets.
Yeah.
Right. And I put them on him and I said, okay, anytime you see a Decepticon, just shoot him. Right. I go into our room and our master bedroom is like right next to his room. So I just hear zoom for like an hour and a half. He was up for an hour and a half just fake blasting these Decepticons till he fell asleep.
But sometimes you got to do that. Yeah, you gotta give them a little bit of that power over the thing that they fear.
Yeah,
and
But it's the fact that he was shooting him for an hour and a half.
yeah, he is committed.
Like you think it'd be for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Nope.
It's an hour and a half. That's amazing.
Garrett, how's the nursery coming along?
Nursery's all finished. Got our bags all packed. We are ready to go. Little update. So last time we went in to the doctor. So the whole pregnancy, the baby's been transverse, been sideways. Last time we went into the to have an ultrasound tech was like, yeah, baby's head down, looks great. And we were like, wait. You can't just gloss past that. Like, what? We like started crying. Like we were just like so excited because of, like we had kind of just thought this whole time we're gonna have to have a C-section, and she wasn't even gonna be able to have the option to have the baby naturally. And she's just been super uncomfortable with him sideways. And we were like, so we get the news last week that he's head down. We're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Went back in to have another ultrasound this week, and little sucker's transverse again. So
keeping it exciting.
Yeah, so that was some hard news to bear. But I mean, I just keep telling myself, at the end of the day, as long as he's healthy, as long as she's healthy, like that's all that really matters. You know, we have our own expectations that are going to get met or not met and whatever. But as long as we have a healthy baby and a healthy mom at the end, that's all I really care about. So.
It really is cliche to say that, but I've said that with every single one of my kids. And at the end of the day, it's always been true. Like healthy wife, healthy baby. And people are like, don't you have other things? I'm like, yeah, but at the end of the day, healthy wife, healthy baby. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
God's got the rest.
I feel like I've done a pretty good job at managing my own expectations and not trying to like kind of force what I want or my preferences on the situation. I've just been like, you know what? Like, sure, I've got my preferences, and if they don't happen, it's whatever. But I just want a healthy baby, a healthy mom, and
honestly, man, like the extra. So like my wife is like super natural birth, right? Both of our kids, no drugs, born at a birthing center. If she could have them in our bathtub at our house, like that's what she would do.
Anna.
That was my line. I was like, we are not having no kids in the bathtub at my house. Like, I'm not having that here. Like, let's go to a birthing center. But like you have those expectations, right? But then the first time you hold that baby, all of that goes away. Like it is completely gone. You forget what you thought, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And no amount of stress over the course of those 9 months matters at all. Because your child is there.
Yeah,
it's
and then you've got a whole lot of other stressors that drop in. Where you're like, I got 18 years with this little turd.
This one that ate a burrito in my bed.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, everything's going good. It's crazy. We are pretty much at most 3 weeks away.
Outstanding.
We're pretty much at the point where it's like, hey man, anytime this could happen. And I mean, I think we're both ready. We're both as ready as you can be.
I want to say your wife's probably a lot more ready than you are.
Yeah, no, she's the last few nights she's had some really, really hard time sleeping. Which I feel awful because, you know, I wake up for work in the morning and I usually wake her up getting out of bed. And she's like, hey, how'd you sleep? And I'm like, I slept great. Like I didn't wake up at all. Like, I slept great. Like, how'd you sleep? She's like, I haven't really slept. And then I feel awful. So, but yeah, she's definitely ready for him to be out of her stomach, and we're ready to meet him.
Did you know that when a pregnant woman goes swimming, she is a human submarine?
All right. All right. I think you were the one that specifically said no more dad jokes on this podcast.
I will never say. What do you call friends who like to eat together?
What?
Taste buds.
The sigh.
Yeah. Dude, I have so many. I still, every Sunday, I had 2 new ones for Sunday on church.
It's his religion. It's his religion.
I told Tyler last time we played video games together that I had a story for him about Walmart. For those of you who don't know, Tyler works at Walmart. I wish he worked at my Walmart, because I swear every time I go into my Walmart, I have a new story walking out. So I was at Walmart the other day with my coworker. We're buying cups for coffee in our shop. Like to start the day off with a nice cup of Joe. And so our Walmart is currently going through like a major renovation process. And they're like changing almost everything.
Yeah.
And our Walmart's been pretty much the same layout since I can remember. But they're going through this big renovation, and my coworker and I are looking through the aisles and we can't find coffee cups, and we've known where they are for years and we're having a hard time finding them. And this old lady passes by us. Her shopping cart's like half full. And she looks at us and she goes, I don't know what they are doing here. It's like they turned the store upside down, shook it, and let it fall in its place. And we both like look at each other and kind of like smile, and we look back at her and we're like, yeah, I know, like we can't really find anything that we're looking for either. Like, best of luck. Like, and she turns her shopping cart away from us and goes the opposite direction. And she just like kind of puts her head down and then goes, what the hell? It was just like the most frustrated tone. And she was so mad that she couldn't find what she was looking for. And just screams, what the hell? Oh my gosh, it was so funny. And then I was at Walmart today getting some bread. I like to keep some bread at the shop so I can have some lunch and don't have to buy lunch every day. Got peanut butter and jelly. And I was out of bread.
What color? What type of jelly?
I prefer red raspberry.
Interesting. That is a man of culture.
Yeah. I prefer red raspberry. Preservatives, actually.
So chunks of raspberry?
Yeah.
And sugar?
Lots of
It's
sugar.
more of a jam than a jelly.
It's almost a preserve.
It is a preserve, yeah. Red raspberry preserve. That's what I buy. But I was in there today buying bread, and when you kind of walk into Walmart, there's kind of just this like raised noise level that's just, I don't know what to call it other than the Walmart noise, which is kind of just people shopping, kind of small talk. At our Walmart, you hear some construction going on.
Occasional gunshot.
And I'm walking through, and I'm passing the produce section, which is in the front, and I hear this whistling that's very loud. And I was like, what is going on? Like, no one's talking at an above normal volume. Like, you just hear this very distinct whistling. And come to find out, it was just this guy in the produce section looking at different produce, just whistling his little heart out. And it was like the most beautiful song that I feel like I've ever heard, that this dude is just whistling, but he was whistling so loud. Like I walked past him to go to the very back of the grocery section to get, like, I was looking for a can of, or a case of Coke. And I'm in the very back of the store, and I can still very distinctly hear him whistling his little beautiful tune. And I like almost, I just like,
I mean, tortillas get you excited too. I mean, it'll get me worked up every time.
I just stopped where I was and just took in the beautiful moment. Like, I was like, this is just a very cool moment. And it's just, every time I go to Walmart, it's just a different story. Although nothing will ever top the time I was at Walmart. I was in high school, I think. I was with my best friend at the time. And we're walking through Walmart, and it's like 2 a.m. prime Walmart hours. And some dude in front of us is wearing pajama pants
Solid
And-
start.
and whatever shirt, I don't remember. I just remember the pajama pants. He's kind of walking a little funny, and all of a sudden he kind of shakes his right leg a little bit,
Oh, please tell me it was poop. Please tell me it was poop.
and a little turd came out the bottom of his pajama pants.
That is horrifying.
on the Walmart floor.
Oh, yes.
Tyler, what
That's
would be
all I know
your
about.
reaction coming into work to find out someone had pooped on the floor? Not a kid, not a child, a grown adult.
Man, you talk about a rough day or a crappy day. Man, I have no clue. I'd be like, hey, maintenance to aisle 4. Not me. It's
You're
not
like, I've
going to
got-
be me.
You're like, I have about a week of PTO. I'm going to clock all that in right now.
Yeah,
It's nice knowing you guys. I'll see you in
I'm
a
out.
week.
I'm out.
Yeah, it would not be me for sure.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
That's generally every Walmart experience, though. Like
Well,
every time
so-
they redo a Walmart, everybody comes in and complains about it, and they just gripe for 7 months straight. And then the store's redone, and they're like, "Man, this place is beautiful. I love what you've done with the place." But for 7 months, they were yelling and cussing at the employees because they were messing it up.
I'm not gonna lie. Our local Fred Meyer, which is our Kroger brand place, they changed it probably like 3 years ago, and I still don't know where to find stuff. The number of times I have called my wife to go, honey, where is this thing on the list? And she'll go like, oh, it's in the back of the store. Go to this aisle. And I'm like, how do you know this? And then she spoiled it for me. She's looking at a map of the store, and if you do like
in the app.
yeah, the app shows what aisle, and I'm like, you
What's-
were so cool for like 5 minutes there.
What's great is like we have a Schnucks that we have 5 seconds from our house we go to. If I don't know where things are, I can look on the app and it'll show me what aisle it's in. However, when Walmart is reconstructing their entire store, they don't update their app daily to what they changed yesterday. So you can't use the app at Walmart right now because everything's upside down, shaken, and left to drop in its place.
I was laughing
That's
at
so
that
funny.
only because you said it was an old lady. Because my current old lady story is over Christmas. I went to JCPenney because they have the best sweaters for wives. Like
Okay. Noted.
for
Noted.
well, they're better. Like they are not all midriff like trendy sweaters. They're like classy. Like this is a woman sweater. So I'm in there, and this old lady, like I'm FaceTiming Emily. I hang up, and this old lady comes over, and she does like the elbow and wrist grab on me, like held me, and she goes, "You have the most beautiful golden skin I have ever seen." and I was just like, "Thank you." And then I like gingerly like unfolded her hand from my wrist and walked away because that was scary. I felt like
I've been violated.
dude, I literally felt he puts the lotion in the basket. Like that's the vibe that I felt, and I didn't like it. It scared
Yeah.
me.
No thanks.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Did not like it at
Oh my
all.
gosh.
Alex, you got any good dad stories?
Oh, I got one. So Uriah was a little sick the last, let's just call it,
6 months.
well, a couple weeks mainly. That's when this story takes place, and let me set the stage for you. Sniffly nose, a little bit raspy voice, no big deal. But he wasn't really all that hungry. It was hard for him to keep food down or whatever. And so I'm at work. I get a text from my wife, and she's like, "You will not believe what just happened." And I'm like, either A, this is a leave work moment, or B, this is I'm going to laugh hysterically moment. Didn't know which direction this is going to go.
Yeah.
So my 3-year-old is extremely well spoken, like very proper English.
I love that kid so much. I love that kid.
So apparently, so he's fully potty trained. He just doesn't wipe himself yet. So he had gone to the bathroom. My wife is wiping him. And we do this thing. It's, put your buns to the sky, right? You got to make sure you get in all the crevices. all that jazz, right? So put your buns to the sky. He sneezed when he put his buns to the sky, and things have been a little bit liquid because he's been sick. So he literally, my wife said it was a line of crap from the floor all the way up the back of in our guest bathroom, up the shower, and got her. And the best was he looked back at her immediately and said, "Oops, sorry about that."
Oh my goodness. He is my favorite youngest nephew, and I can say that not as a bad person because I only have 2 nephews, and I have an older nephew and a younger nephew.
Oh my gosh.
2 Sundays ago, he was Alex and his wife were talking to our pastors, and I was packing up my gear on stage, and I look over and I see little Uriah with his foot in the middle of the group of these 4 grown-ups, just looking up at his parents and then looking down at his shoe, and then looking up at his parents, looking down at his shoe, looking up, and I hop off the stage and I look down and his shoe's untied. And I look at him and I go, "Hey Uriah, come here." And he goes, "Uncle TJ, shoe untied." And I was like, "I got you, buddy." And I tie his shoe, and then he just gives me a high five and then goes back to hip to his mom's knee. And I'm like, "I love you, kid. You're my favorite youngest nephew."
Jeez.
That's funny.
Those are the joys of going to church with family.
Yep.
Because I've gotten tackled by his oldest. His oldest has 0 chill, 100% energy at all times. And dude, I almost got taken out by that kid. I went down for the uncle, went down to my knees to give a hug, and he just full speed into my chest, almost laid me out in front of the lobby. And I'm like, "Okay."
Speared you.
Yeah, dude. And just big hug. And I'm like, that was almost bad. I'm old now. That would hurt. But I'll take a nephew hug any day.
He's got a lot of love.
Yes.
That's wild.
That's amazing. Introducing the newest innovation in parenting, the Breastmilk Formula Keurig Pod. Do you ever find yourself struggling to mix and measure your baby's formula correctly? Do you dread those middle of the night feedings where you're fumbling bottles and scoops in the dark? Well, fear not. Gone are the days of fussing with bottles, measuring scoops, and lukewarm water. With our revolutionary new formula pod, you can have perfectly prepared breast milk in seconds, right at your fingertips. Simply pop the pod into your existing Keurig machine, press the button, and voila! A steaming hot cup of breast milk formula is ready for your little one to enjoy. Our breast milk formula Keurig pods come in a variety of flavors, including classic, chocolate, and even pumpkin spice, because let's face it, babies deserve to be basic too. With breast milk formula Keurig pods, you can rest easy knowing your baby is getting the best possible nutrition in the easiest possible way. But don't just take our word for it. Here's what some of our satisfied customers have to say. Jessica, new mom, says, "I used to spend hours a day making bottles, but now I have so much more free time to binge watch Netflix." And Tom, the exhausted dad, says, "I was skeptical at first, but after trying the breast milk formula Keurig pod, my baby actually started sleeping through the night." So what are you waiting for? For the best milk, try the breast milk formula Keurig pod today and give your baby the gift of convenience.
Nice.
As your guest, I'm going to need some samples of that. Not for my child, for me. Breast milk is actually rich in colostrum, which equals gains in the gym. So I need that. For me, not for my baby. For me.
It would have been way less disgusting if it wasn't a Keurig pod. If you said prepackaged into a French press, I would have been down. But the fact that you I just slapped it in, then I made my coffee right afterwards. Just instant.
Dude, it's actually creamer. It's nice. It's sweet. Come on.
What's funny about it is if you have a Keurig, you know that it's impossible to keep clean. So if you there's no shot if you've made a cup of coffee previous to doing this breast milk formula.
You're not giving your kid espresso.
Yeah, you're getting coffee. You're getting coffee grounds in the breast milk. So, oh my gosh. That was a good one.
Wait,
That was a good one.
I think there's one more review for this.
Oh, yeah, you got one?
Yeah, it says from David Williams in
Oh, dear
somewhere
God.
USA. The Keurig coffee pod for my child's breast milk has been the greatest thing. Now I can make my child's breast milk and order $300 of Taco Bell from random restaurants around the country with ease.
Hey, David Williams. Go yourself. God. Well, hey, if you have any questions about dad life, parenting, married life, or just general questions about Abe's love for us, Abe, we miss you. Please come back. Please follow and message us on Instagram, comment on YouTube,
He doesn't like me.
and subscribe at somehowiDad or email us at somehowiDad@gmail.com. Today's question is, what is some of the best and worst parenting advice that you've ever received?
All right, so I think the best piece of parenting advice, and I don't follow it too often because it's very tough raising toddlers, is to, so if you're raising your child, treat every day as if it's like the last day you're going to spend with your child. Treat them how you would treat them if it was the last day you were going to spend time with them. And whenever I do think about that, and whenever it does actually cross my mind, and they're not irritating the living mess out of me, and sometimes when they are irritating the mess out of me, it helps me refocus on what's important and try to make their day better and try to enjoy the little bit of time that I do have with them every day. And that's probably the best piece of advice. And the worst piece of advice would probably have to be anything that starts with, well, I raised 4 children, I know what I'm doing. Or I raised 2 children, I know what I'm doing. Which I think TJ shared in the group chat. But I've received the same advice. And anything that starts with that is obviously probably going to end up being toxic.
It's so true because for me, thinking about this topic was I've gotten so much less out of advice and so much more out of how other parents are dealing with their kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Because I mean, I get, and this is not to be mean to my parents, but I get advice from my parents. I get advice from my in-laws. And honestly, I look at my kids and I want to raise them better than I was raised. Or I want to prep them better for the future than I feel like I was prepared. Give me 1 second.
Well, and to kind of pick up off that, TJ, the intent for us is to, like TJ said, to raise our kids better than we were raised, right? So
Yeah.
ideally, we wouldn't be following per se all of the advice our parents give us, right? But I think there's also some rich things looking backwards from your parents, right? Because in the moment when you're a kid, or even the pieces you remember are generally negative, right? You'll hold on to a lot of these really negative moments. And I've had actually some really good conversations with my grandpa and my uncle who were around during my childhood. My parents, when I was young, I'm the second oldest of 4. And so me and my older sister, when my mom and dad had us, we lived with my grandparents and my uncle. So they were around when I was little. And so there's a lot of things that I gained from conversation with them as a grown man, really in just the last couple of years, about how we were parented that I've gleaned and used in the future. But I agree mainly with TJ. And I mean, my parents are wonderful people. I love my mom and dad. But they were only able to use the tools they were given, right?
Yeah.
Which is tough, given that my dad was an only child and a latchkey kid, and my mom, her parents, I mean, her mom's been remarried a couple of times, her dad's been divorced 3 or 4 times and was never present. So they didn't have a lot of tools, right? Where we have a lot more at our disposal today.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I have learned a lot more from my peers and having good conversations about what we are going through in the moment, more than because conversely, what Alex said, we look back and see negative. Our parents only see the positive.
Correct.
So, and that's
really
no shade against my parents. I love my parents dearly, and they made me a lot of who I am today. But I feel like the advice I get from my elders are usually like they're voiced in such a way as this is what you should do. Where my peers, I get a lot of this is what worked for me. And I've gotten more out of that. So like just with Tyler, same thing. Anytime somebody goes, well, I've already done this, I'm just like, cool. Well, I know your kid. And
and they're terrible.
But the best advice I ever got was
I'm just going to cut you off really quick before you say that. I think I'm a visual learner. I'd like to think, and the thing that keeps popping in my mind is like, well, you said like, I think Alex was the one that mentioned like something about like when people give you advice, it's like they're handing you tools to succeed. And it's like when it almost feels like sometimes when your parents give you advice, it seems like they feel like they're handing you the entire toolkit that you're going to need when it's really just a wrench.
Yeah.
And it's still great advice and it's still something that's going to get the job done, but it's not the gospel. And it's not going to be the entire toolkit I need. I'm going to need to get a screwdriver. I'm going to need a hammer. I'm going to need a leveler. I'm going to need all these other things, to get stuff done around the house. And I think that's just kind of what my first like thought was when you guys were talking is like a lot of times people that have done it before and are older and are kind of grown up feel like they're giving you the entire tool bag and giving you, the Snap-on dresser full of tools when they're really just giving you a wrench or a screwdriver.
Or some flex tape. That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, one of the things when I think about parenting is culture has changed so much from generation to generation to generation. Like my grandpa, he turns 80 this year, right? He parented through, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. My parents parented through the late 80s, early 90s into, the early 2000s. How much has changed culturally. Now, some of the tools are transcendent, right?
Yeah.
Like communication, being intentional, everything that you guys have been talking about on the podcast. But the application is different, right? Yeah. Where it's like being intentional today.
Things that you are fighting against for your children's upbringing is very different.
Right. Because there's nothing in the tool bag for my parents that talks about how much pad time I should give my son. Right.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you brought up the tool thing because my pastor literally talked that about on Sunday. He went to the if there's a nut on something, you can, even if you have good grip strength, you can work as hard as you can to loosen it, but it's not going to work as good as a wrench. But if you grab a hammer, it's a tool, but it's not the right tool for the application you're going for. So a whole lot of life is learning what tool you need at the right time to handle the current situation. Yeah. And but the best thing, parenting advice that I heard, and it wasn't even in the realm of parenting advice, it was a worship devo where I brought like something about the like what we were building to as a team. And then my worship leader, Javon, said, I want each and every one of you to remember that the ceiling that we reach, our highest thing we can get to, is the foundation, the floor that our kids are going to build on.
Yeah.
Wow.
So for me, that's when I hit that moment of like, I'm going to push as hard as humanly possible to set my kids up as high as I can reach them, because that's where they're going to start. Yeah. They're not going to, if I just barely lift them up and hold them around the waist and just keep them at my level, then they're starting where I am. But if I can put them on my shoulders and get them further than I personally can ever get, because if I have my kids sit on my shoulders, they're taller than I will ever be. And if I can get them up there, then that's where they're going to start in their, either their emotional health, their spiritual health. Like I don't want my kids to go through what I always call as my less Christian days. I want them to have that faith built in so they don't have to wander to make their faith their own. I want my kids to have their own faith growing up. I want, like, that's the stuff that got me. That's what has been lingering in my mind as a father. And I really like what Tyler said about each day approach it as your last day that you're going to see your kids. Will you say, I love you that one more time? Will you play Legos with them? Will you hop on freaking lego.com and surf sets so they can see and you can see their joy? Or like we talked about last time, just playing that one worship song when they're bugging you, when you just want to hop on Xbox and like play Egypt.
Yeah.
Like, will you have that worship moment with your kids?
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. That's what's been sitting in my mind as a dad recently.
Yeah. It's just that one thing that kind of gives you perspective. It's just a complete perspective shift of like, in the moment, this is not what I want to be doing. But when I have that perspective shift of, if this is the last day, I want to give my kid my everything. I want to give them all my attention. I want them to smile as much as possible. I want them to laugh as much as possible. And I know it's an impossible task, but if we do try to approach that kind of, that with that intention every day, like, how much greater of a childhood are they going to have? How much greater of a parenthood are you going to be? How much better of a person are you going to be? Because it's not only going to affect your fatherhood, but it's going to translate into other areas of life unknowingly. So, that's great. That's great advice.
Yeah, being a parent is a selfless pursuit. Like being a true dad, like being a father, like our best example is God, right? The most perfect example, and it's an entirely selfless pursuit. So that's and the sucky thing is we're all human. So our pursuit isn't entirely selfless all the time, but it's like that main goal of, living each day like it's your last with your kids. And the one that has been, the Holy Spirit has been really checking me on and convicting me on is being silly with my kids. Right? Because I'm a super serious, rigid, somewhat intimidating person from time to time. I know the guys, when we play COD together, it's not the same. But in my day to day, I'm a boss of 18 people. I'm in charge of a ministry, so it's like I'm a very rigid person. Yeah. And so like Uriah this morning, or when I got like right before this, was dancing in the kitchen, butt naked, dancing to whatever, just spinning around dancing, and the Lord kind of checked me on it, and He was like, "Hey, you should go dance with your son." And I'm like, "But I got this." And He's like, "No, go dance with your kid." Right. And so there's me dancing with my 3-year-old in the kitchen. Right. And I don't dance at all. I am not musically or rhythmically inclined. But it's the be silly and be okay looking like a fool in front of your kid.
Well, as again, I'm sorry to loop this back to service on Sunday. Would be what Javon said when we started worship. What he was not admonished, but encouraged to if they went to the Carrie Job concert on Saturday, was one of the worship leaders said, I want to dance foolishly before the Lord, like with no fear, with no cares. I am here only to worship God. Yeah. And I see like what you were saying, like just to go in without those preconceived notions, how is that going to look? Your kids aren't going to remember that you danced stupidly. They're going to remember that Dad danced with me.
Yeah.
And that also ties back to that, how you model your marriage to your kids. Like I think I said, I want my kids to see me and my wife be silly and stupid, laugh about dumb things, dance in the kitchen, like have stupid jokes. Like when I accidentally slapped a bagel out of Emily's hand, the kids thought that was the funniest thing. It was totally unintentional. It was one of those, like, I just stretched and I just slapped the bagel out of her hand, and we lost it. And the kids thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen because Dad knocked the food. But in that same way is like go in with zero abandon with your kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good.
So, Garrett, what advice have you gotten as a father who isn't even like baby out yet. What have you heard? Because I know you've had to have heard that everybody's an expert on what you should be doing in the future.
Yeah. I honestly, I was trying to think back of like what people said. And I feel like you get so much advice that it all blurs together, and I don't really remember much of it because everyone wants to give you their opinion, which is great. I mean, I will gladly accept any advice I get, whether or not I filter it out as to whether I'm going to use it or not. That's whatever, but I will gladly take any advice I can get because I'm figuring this thing out and doing this for the first time. So, I actually wrote out on Facebook and Instagram to see kind of what other people's responses were to this question. And I feel like the one of them that someone posted here, Spencer posted, is when people say enjoy it while they're little because it only gets worse. It's like
I feel like that's negative.
Yeah,
Very
like
negative.
I feel like this goes along with any advice people give you. Is if it's negative, don't say it. Like that's not the advice that a new parent needs is something negative.
It's gonna suck, guys.
It's gonna suck. And don't worry, it only gets worse. Like I don't need that negativity in my life.
Exactly.
And I don't need to be focusing on like if I'm in a moment if I'm having a great moment with my kid, I don't want to be because I have that in my head now. I don't want to think, it only gets worse from here. Like, no,
Yeah.
Like we say it at our church all the time. Like our best days are ahead. Like they are not like we've had great days behind us and great things have happened. And I feel like I take that into my everything, every aspect of my life and even parenting. Like I'm not letting what may be a really great moment now be the only great moment there is, or like whatever. Like, no, like sure, things may get hard and things may get harder, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy it. And that doesn't mean that I can't find moments of enjoyment or whatever. Like, no, the best days are ahead of us.
Yep.
And I don't know. I just feel like any advice that someone gives you that has any negative connotation, like, I know you're trying to be helpful. I know you're not trying to whatever, but like, don't give negative connotation advice because it's not helpful. Like
For the record, if I give you negative advice, it's usually to be funny.
No, and I understand that. Yeah, I know you well enough to know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a funny one that someone had reached out. Funny enough, the Breastmilk Keurig pod was actually something that someone told one of my friends to use instead of breastfeeding.
Is that really a thing?
It's really a thing. I was talking with Kate about it, and it's really a thing that you can get a formula into a Keurig pod. I don't know if it's actually a Keurig branded thing,
but it's going to be one of those things you put in your coffee maker to make formula.
Oh, I'm doing it. I will buy it and I will post it on Instagram just for you guys.
It's not,
Alex, you and I are going to have a conversation after this podcast.
Gains, bro. Gains are important.
You and I are going to have a conversation after this podcast.
It doesn't have colostrum in it. It's a formula.
But if someone made it for formula, someone definitely made it for breast milk.
Just
big brain.
Just get whey protein, bro.
No way.
But another piece of advice so Sam, my worship pastor, said that someone told him that they need to change their son's diapers with their kids standing up because it builds dignity and character.
Interesting.
That I would argue only happens when you've got a blowout.
And
that's a good way to get pissed on.
I thought that's a great way to get pissed on. Whoever said this piece of advice has clearly never changed a diaper with their kids standing up. Like, I mean, I guess like if he's laying down, I'm still probably going to get pissed on, but like,
for sure,
it may not be as direct as him standing.
Just don't make him lean over and sneeze.
So the best piece of advice I ever got was from a pastor who was in my life when I was a young man, trying to figure out what kind of man I wanted to be. And he had told me, he said, pay attention, like look for people in your life and you want in your life to emulate parenting. Right. So he was we were talking more about mentorship as a man. But he really said, be specific and pick specific areas of your life to find mentors, right? So if you're in business, find a business mentor, spirituality, that and whatnot. But the one honed in on, his name's Pastor Franklin, one of my very best friends today. And he's the godfather of my sons. But he was the one that, God had really showed me that is someone I want to emulate being a dad after, right? Because he was evenly stern and compassionate, silly. He was very, like to your point earlier, TJ, demonstrated what it's like to be married in front of his kids. And he has a mixed family, right? He has a couple of kids that aren't his by blood, but he's known them since they were young, and they call him dad and all that. So I looked at him and really started from that moment paying attention to the people around me and being able to see, I want to do that. I want that. Let me get closer to this. And I definitely don't want kids that look like that, right? Because it's like the parenting is directly or mostly directly represented by the fruit, right? Mm-hmm. Their kids, how they act, how they carry themselves, most of the time, right? I've met some really great parents who had just terrible children as at the ages they were, right? But so that was the best piece of advice I ever got, which was just like, be intentional, pay attention to like the people around you. Don't try to figure everything out on your own. Ask good questions, find good mentors in different areas of your life. The worst advice probably goes in line with what TJ and Tyler had said was, I had an older gentleman at our church. It was a two-parter with this guy, him and his wife. I was like, man, I never want to see you again. But he had said, like, Lincoln and I were having a very intense discussion by our prayer room, which there's like a hallway by the kids. And all he says as he's walking by is, don't spare the rod. And I'm like, sir, I'm about to not spare the rod on you. And then his wife, Lincoln, she was in the nursery. They don't go to our church anymore, so we're good. But she had suggested that I get my at that time 4-year-old on Adderall / Ritalin, and I'm like, I think we're gonna pass. Yeah, I think we're gonna pass on that one. But those are the real world worst advices I've ever gotten. But
jeez,
that is like the most I think misconstrued verses in the Bible is spare the rod, spoil the child, because it never says you have to beat your child.
Right.
It's basically saying if you void your child from discipline, then yes, they will become spoiled. They will become an unruly child. It doesn't mean you have to beat them. It can be any sort of discipline or punishment. It could be a timeout. It could be talking to them. Yeah. It could be anything, any variety of things.
Discipline looks different to each child, I think.
Exactly.
Right. And not because you spank your child, you're beating them. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm saying it's not that everything revolves into one bubble. Like it just doesn't fit.
Isn't there agenda. A huge amount that goes to what your intention is or your heart in the discipline is?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that a few episodes ago as well as how do you, I think it was specifically, how do you tell like if you're being too hard on your kids, and it's just it's your intention behind it, I think.
Yeah. 100%.
If your intention is out of bad, because you're angry or you're frustrated, like chances are you're probably being a little
missing the mark,
kids. Yeah.
Sitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it is. And I think it's really cool that God really pairs you up with a person that will even you out. Right. So it's like, and it may be either end, but what's the word I'm looking for? The visibility to a person who knows you as well as your wife does. Right. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. Right. So you can really sense that subconscious angst that's going on. If like I get home and my wife's like, she's got that face on, like, I'm like, oh man, here we go. It's been a tough one. Right. So I am the mellowing agent in that moment. Right. Or if she does the same thing to me, or she'll correct me and be like, hey, you need to go chill out. right? You're coming at Lincoln at a level 10, which it merited a level 3, right? So there's something else going on with you. Go deal with that. Come back.
Yeah.
Did you hear the podcast, Alex, where I talked about how your reaction should not exceed the offense?
Yep.
That one, that has been in my head for a while.
Yeah.
Like just sitting there.
Yeah.
But yeah, discipline is a tough one.
Yeah.
Because it's the biggest thing, and I'll go back to it. I know I've said it before. You got to learn how your kids react.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Discipline is a minefield.
Or how they learn.
Mhm.
And I think you've got to learn how they react, but how do you react?
Mhm.
Like how are you reacting when they do whatever? How do you react when they color on the walls? How do you react when they
Steal your burrito.
steal your burrito and dump it all in the bed? How do you react when they say words they know they shouldn't say? Or how do you react when they just want your attention and you are too busy? Like, I mean, you've got to learn, you've got to know how you react to those situations, but then you also need to know how they best react to you kind of disciplining them per se.
And full back to the sometimes you got to humble your pride and apologize to your kids when you're wrong.
Yeah.
And that sucks. That is a humbling moment.
Yeah, I one of the pieces of advice here that someone posted on my Facebook here, Emma said that it's healthy for your child to watch you experience emotions. So I think that kind of falls right in line with that. Like it's healthy for your kid to watch you experience like, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Like I acted wrong in this moment and I apologize and I want you to will you forgive me? And even all other kinds of emotions. Like it's healthy for your children to watch that and to see how you process through different emotions.
Absolutely. It's huge. That's part of that. Like you're raising your kids to be better than you are. Like that is the end goal. Is I want my kids to be more successful than me, more talented than me, more better opportunities than I had. And that's not to say I didn't have opportunities, but if my kids are more successful than me when I'm 50, because let's see, I'm 31. My youngest will turn 18 when I am 46. So if my kids end up more successful than me by the time I'm like 55, I'm going to be thrilled. I'm not going to be like, these kids owe me because I raised them. No, I'm going to be like, heck yes, my kids. I did my job.
Yeah. You just want to champion your kids to be the best they can be.
100%. And that goes back to Alex's point about God, is God gives us all these opportunities and he's just dreaming for the moment that we double our investment or quadruple our investment. If we just bury our talents in the ground and we are at the same level, he's happy with us. But how much more could we have achieved with that? And
on the flip side of that too, it's like scripture does talk about the the curse that lasts your generation after, like generations, your sons, right? So it's like there's a requirement on a father and a parent to be introspective and deal with your own stuff, as well as raise these kids to not deal with the generational curses that you may carry or have carried in right, that your parents didn't deal with or your grandparents didn't deal with or whatever, or maybe you were the instigator of. So there's a heavy mantle. And to your point earlier, Garrett, about like it only gets harder. I think a lot of people aren't ready for the mantle that comes with parenting. And they want to, enjoy the cute, squishy part.
And I think they want to blame it on their kids too.
Yeah.
And they're not,
I did all I could. These kids.
Right.
I'm doing everything I can, but my kid is still blah, blah, blah. And I understand that stuff does happen, but I feel like a lot of times, like to your point, that, when things get hard, people in every situation, not just parenting, when things get hard, people look for a scapegoat and people look for another reason to blame anything else but themselves. And a lot of times that common denominator in those situations is you. and you've just got to handle your own stuff first and be ready for what's coming your way. Before you are trying to just blame stuff on your kid because it's easy in the moment.
I don't know if my phone is listening to me. But I don't know if you guys have YouVersion. Did you guys just get the verse of the day?
I get mine at a different time of the day.
Yeah.
Well, you probably get it like 2 hours away from me. But mine literally said, "For you created me for you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." If that doesn't go on to being a dad and being a parent and then raising children, I don't know what does. That is literally the verse that the Bible app just told me is the highlight of the day. I'm like, that's topical. Like it's a big thing to be that mantle. And I don't know. I don't feel like my parents ever prepped me for that. Like in the realm of advice I never got was the weight of being a parent.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a like that modeling a marriage and parenthood, because at some point you're also modeling how to be a parent to your kids when they have children.
Someone else on my Facebook had said, how you treat your kids and how you love your kids is how your kids are going to love and treat their kids.
Yeah.
Everything that you model as a parent, I'd say to an extent, I don't want to say 100% of the things that you do, your kids are going to do, but to a good extent, a lot of what you do as a parent, your kids that's their only reference of what a parent looks like to an extent.
And they're either going to use you as a good example or a bad example.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the heavy thing. I don't want to be the parent that this is what my parents did. I'm never going to do that.
Yeah. But I think you also have to come to a point where no matter what you do, your kids aren't going to agree or like everything you do.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when we first found out when we were pregnant, I don't know if I've shared this yet on the podcast yet, but one of my biggest fears was, Kate and I we found out we were pregnant. We were on vacation, just the two of us, just getting away. We're sitting down at a diner in some small town in Boston, just talking about parenting and just dreaming for our kids' life. And it was really awesome. But we kind of ended the conversation and I was like, what's going to suck is our kid in 20 years is going to be sitting down at a diner with his wife talking about all the things that his parents did that he didn't like, that he wants to do different for his kids. And it broke my heart. Like, I was like, I don't want to be the cause or the reason for any hurt or pain or anything in my kid's life. Like, I want to be the best version that I can be for him so that he doesn't have to have those scars per se, for lack of better terms at the moment, like to heal through. But at the end of the day, you just have to come to terms with like, I can only do so much and I can do the best that I can do. And he still isn't going to love everything. And so I think it's kind of,
that's that the human side of parenting, because you're learning too. You've never parented a newborn. You never parented a toddler. Yeah. I feel like there's got to be a space in your heart to talk to your kids when they're adults and eliminate the pride and be like, what did I like? Talk to me.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I would love, and I can't wait until my kids are old enough where I can sit down with them. And I feel like I'd love to do it on a regular basis too, as at starting at whatever age when they can kind of comprehend the question, but like, what can I do to parent you better? Like, what have I done that's hurt you? What have I done that's been great? Like, this isn't something like give me some feedback here. Like, I would love to help you as much as I can. And even like, I think we've talked about this before, is there's the different stages of parenting. Like I may have crushed, the toddler stage, but man, middle school is rough. And like, what can I do to help you? Like I'm here for you. And I can't wait for those conversations to just be like, to know that I can swallow my pride enough to say that, like, I know I'm not the best parent, but I really want to be. So what can I do better for you? And
and that's the developing relationship as you go from newborn all the way to an adult child.
Yeah, because you as a child need your parents different in every season of life, and it's an ever evolving relationship of father and son, or mother and son, or mother and daughter, whatever combination you have. Like it's an ever evolving relationship, and you can't just get so fixated on one season of life that you think that how you parent in one season of life is going to work for the rest of seasons.
Yeah.
And
conversely, how you relate to your parents has to change.
Exactly.
Like that I've been challenged by that, especially like with my dad wanting to do stuff with me. Like I'm 31. I've got my own family. I've got my own job. I'm working. I'm providing. And the same way that I miss my kids when they're at my in-laws or my parents over the weekend. And as much as I love that, my house is quiet. My wife and I can sit on the couch and watch a show without, can you get me some apple juice? There's a monster under my bed. Like that kind of thing. That conversely, my dad just wants to spend time with me. My mom wants to spend time with me. And even though it can be an inconvenience where I'm like, bro, Dad, I work my fake job. I know, but I work. I just want to be home. But at the same time, I've been trying to put myself in if Luke said that to me when he's a grown ass man and I just want to hang out with my son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it conversely, it's just that like we are all learning as time progresses, because I've never been a 31-year-old son / dad before.
Yeah.
My dad's never been 52, 62, 50. Oh, my dad is.
I think he's in his 60s. Yeah.
What is it? 2023? 62.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Dang. But like he's never been in that position. And there's that grace, and you got to have the grace that we are both learning and the ability to see outside your own bubble.
Yeah. For sure. That's really good.
So that's my parenting advice to anybody listening is try to see things from other people's perspective.
Yeah.
As much as possible. Try to see your kids' perspective, even when they're wrong, especially at the stage where my oldest is 7, my youngest is 3. Or I think Luke's 8 now. Yeah, he's 8. Seeing things from their perspective and realizing that your heart matter, or your heart behind things, is so vastly important to what you are doing.
Yeah.
And you can have the best intentions and still fail utterly.
Well, hey, if you have any questions or topics you want us to talk about, please reach out on Instagram, email, or just reach out to any of us personally on any of our personal social media accounts. We'd love to get some feedback on what's working, what's not working on the podcast, and we want to talk about like what helps you as a parent, and what you're struggling with, what you're kind of wanting some thoughts on. So yeah, just reach out. Thank you guys so much for listening. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to some morons like us talk about like we have it all together, because Lord knows we don't. We're just trying to figure it out day by day, just like you. So thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. Until next time.
I'm Tyler.
I'm TJ.
I guess I'm Alex.
And I'm Garrett. Remember that being good enough isn't the goal. The goal is progress over perfection. Let's all try to be a little bit better this week than we were last week. You got this. Love you. Bye.
Bye.